Okay. So we're recording now. Today we're going to focus on job interviews for the next 40 or so minutes. Earlier we discussed resumes. Obviously, if your resume is strong and you've made some of the recommendations that we've made today, then hopefully you get your interview. When you get your interview, that's where things change quite a bit. And yes, we will make the recordings available. I'm not sure how the school will do that. I couldn't tell you. I don't have any idea how they're going to do that. I can make it available. I have the recordings that I did from this morning. I will have this recording as well. Okay. But how the school decides which ones to post or keep, no idea. No idea. Okay. So, in terms of interviews, in terms of being prepared for a lot of your next steps, interviews don't just relate for your job interview. For a lot of you, it's going to be much more than your job interview. It can be your college interview. It can be your interview for a promotion rather than just for a job. Right? So it's definitely a lot more than just job interview strategies. What we want to focus on today is, in general, when you have these meetings, right, with your supervisors, are you prepared? Right? Are you prepared? That's our goal today. Our goal today will be getting you guys prepared. Now, we have 167 of you in class. I'm not letting any of you talk because I'm not dealing with managing 170 high school students. So let's just get that out of the way, right? If you have questions, you can do the whole raise your hand process. You can type it into the chat box. That'll be the best way to do it. All right. Any questions on that before we get going? You guys can see my screen, I assume. All right. Tyler, good morning. Great. So first and foremost, before we even discuss any job interviews, before we go too deep into any of your actual questions, I will share this with you because Virtual Enterprise is for the senior class currently taking applications. I have to notify the guidance office by tomorrow on what students will be accepted into the program for their senior year. Usually we will recruit through some of the social studies classes. Understandably, not being in school makes that quite difficult. So if any of you are interested, this is the link. I'm putting it right here in the chat. You can apply to be in. It doesn't mean that you'll be guaranteed a spot. We only accept about 95 students per year. So if you're interested, and I assume many of you guys are here, some of you were in the previous one discussing resumes, now you're here to discuss job interviews. If you are that interested and engaged, well then perhaps VE would be for you. If so, I need those applications done by, today's Thursday, by midnight tonight. Tomorrow morning will be when I send all the names of who got in to guidance to see if it works in everyone's schedule. And good morning, Frida. How are you? All right, so you guys now have that application. So speaking about job interviews, how many of you, if you've been on a job interview, can you guys just write a number 1 into the chat box, please? Just so I can get a frame. Damn, everybody almost. That's great. Okay, how many of you, if you got the job that you interviewed for, can you write a number 2? If you got the job you interviewed for, write a number 2. Okay, let's go the other way. If you interviewed, and if you have ever interviewed and then not gotten the job, write a number 3. You've interviewed and you didn't get the job. There should be a whole lot of 3s popping up here. I know some of you. I wouldn't be hiring you either. Great. So now the question becomes, well, why didn't you get the job? Right? The question isn't just, did I have a good interview? But the question also becomes, why did I not get the job? What held me back from getting the job? What didn't they like? Okay? So that's what's important when you guys are preparing for interviews. So in order to prepare, these are your key pieces of what to be able to address in the interview. So of these 7, right? Of these 7 topics, which of these do you guys think is most important? Which one of these do you find is most important? You'll have to write it because I don't have the, actually, no, yeah, I'm not going to number them. Which of these is most important? Researching the company, clothing, your resume, researching the company, resume, salary expectations. That would probably be least important in the discussion. To be honest, I'll tell you why after. Researching. Okay, so you guys gave me somewhat the answers I was looking for. Okay, sorry, I got to add a few more people into this. Okay, so let's talk first impressions. There's something called the 7-Eleven rule, which I'll go over right now. So the 7-Eleven rule is that when they have 99-cent coffee at 7-Eleven, you have to make sure you pick it up because 7-Eleven coffee is delicious. All right. The real 7-Eleven rule is that people will make in the first 7 seconds that somebody sees you, they will make 11 judgments about you. So the first 7 seconds that somebody sees you, they will have sufficiently made, so 7-Eleven rule, they will have sufficiently made 11 judgments about you, which you then will have to fight to change their initial assessment of you. Okay? So one of the first things is, yes, appropriate clothing. Prior to appropriate clothing, what is the very first impression they get of you? Very, very first impression they get of you. Yeah. So your very first impression they get is your resume. They don't even see your face. They don't see your face. They don't know what you look like. They look at your resume first. You haven't even been called in for an interview, and they've already judged you based on your resume. So that is the first thing you have to consider, is that when you send your resume, it has to be perfect. If you don't have a resume, then you're never going to get an interview, right? No one calls you in for an interview without a resume. So your resume's first. Your resume will be your first impression. All right? So you have to make sure things are formatted correctly, things are spelled correctly, things are laid out attractively and appealing. It effectively communicates, all right? Similar to some of the things that we discussed this morning about resumes. After they've made your first impression about your resume, now, if and when they call you in for an interview, that's where the 7-Eleven rule actually starts. Because now they will judge you based on a handful of things. So one, like Ilya said, the way you dress. The second, like Jonathan Flores wrote, your body language. Like Lucia said, are you professional? I saw somebody write, did you extend your hand for a handshake? Did you give eye contact? How about this? Were you polite to the secretary when you walked into the room? Did you hold the door for someone when you walked into the office? Did you say good morning? Did you smile? Was your shirt ironed? Okay. What else might they be looking for? The first things that might give them a first impression. How you look. Good. Is your hair done? The way you smell. Yep. Your attitude. So do you walk with your shoulders slanted down, or do you walk with good posture? The tone of your voice when you say good morning. Yes, Darren. Oh, Frank, good one. Tattoos. Guys, don't get a face tattoo. Please don't get a face tattoo. Don't get a neck tattoo. Don't think just because you're turning 18 and you want to be cool that you can just get an arm tattoo. Okay? Piercings, like crazy piercings, take them out. Crazy colored contacts, take them out. If you want to be you and who you are, please be important first, right? Be recruited for a job first. Don't be 20 years old out of college thinking you're hot stuff. You haven't accomplished anything, and you got tattoos up and down your neck and down your arms. You will not get your job. They will judge you. Whether it's right or wrong isn't my case to argue. But what I'm telling you is they will judge you based on what you're wearing, based on what you look like, based on your eye contact and your attitude, based on how you shake hands. If you have a dead fish handshake, right? I know you guys can't see me, but like it's a limp wrist, soft finger, dead fish handshake. Or is it a firm handshake? Young ladies in here, your strong handshake will set you apart. Women shake hands. All right? Khan, I don't know who you are, but you don't dap people. Okay? You don't dap anybody up. You are now a professional. So I would challenge you guys to start doing that now while you guys are in high school to get a better grip of how you should behave in the future. So the 7-Eleven rule, yeah, the quickest way to get thrown out of your interview is to start hugging people. I'm pretty sure that there's a sexual harassment law against that. So first is the 7-Eleven rule. They will judge you 11 times in the first 7 seconds they meet you. So be careful. Be cautious. So it's not only clothing, though. Did you bring a copy of your resume? Right? You will need to bring 1 or 5. If I have an interview today, I would bring like 8 copies of my resume. So what, I have extras. At least I have extras in case there's extra people there. Imagine they don't bring you. Imagine you send them the resume, but they don't print it out. They expect you to be prepared. Bring your resume. Put it in a folder, right? Bring a pen and a pad so you can take notes. It is crucially important that you guys are prepared. Shang Wen, if you want to have those conversations, I would discuss that with people at a different time. All right, if you have a job interview question, great, let's have that discussion. So a lot of you guys said research the company. You must research the company. Yes. I would say analyzing the job is more important before you research the company. Okay? All right, so guys, if you're going to have a side conversation, I'm going to ask you guys to leave the Zoom, and you guys can have that conversation at a different time, at a different place. All right? I don't want other students that are here to be distracted with side conversations. San Lee, that is not your place either. All right? So everybody that's here, stay on topic, or I'm going to have to ask you guys to leave. All right, so please stay on topic. It is no one else's job in here to do that. Which leads us to, hey, the next discussion. Know your role. In the interview, you have to know your role. Not only are they interviewing you, but what is it your chance to do? What is it for you? So they are interviewing you. They're going at you as the interviewer. Yes, Arthur, it's your shot to interview them. Do you want to work here? Do you want to spend the rest of your life there? Right? Do you like what they offer? What is their culture? What does overtime look like? What are holidays looking like? Do they have a happy hour for employees? What is their 401k plan? How do they evaluate employees? How many employees work here? How many minority employees work here if I'm a minority? And I want to know, am I the only person here that looks like I do? You should be asking questions during your interview. You should definitely be asking questions during your interview. Now, not when you sit down, all right? Because when you initially sit down and shake hands, they're going to come at you and say, well, tell us why you're here. Tell us about yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses? But yeah, Ms. Paredes, you have to ask about benefits, because how else do you know if you want this job? Let them interview you first. So that's the first thing. The first person that gets interviewed is you. You get interviewed first. Then you can start doing the interviewing. Then you can start asking, well, what are the benefits? Is there a travel stipend they will give you? Is there the ability, look at what's happening now. Where are we all working from? Home. Is there a chance to work from home once a week? Can you work from home if you're sick? How many sick days do they give you? These are all important questions. This is why you have to have a notebook. Not some scrungy loose leaf paper that you pull out of your social studies binder. A legit, clean, leather-covered notebook. So you look professional. Otherwise, they will judge you again. Okay? So resumes we discussed earlier. Resumes we can discuss. I'll send out the link somehow through the school. We're going to focus on interviews. Resumes was this morning. You can also find me next year if you guys aren't seniors and graduating to talk resumes. So Leela asked a question. Leela asked a great question. If the interviewer throws a curveball question. Can you say you don't know? Like what? What might be a question? What are you thinking about, Leela? It is not unprofessional to ask about money. It's unprofessional to phrase it, what are you paying? Okay, so Leela, you will get hiring managers. Guys, don't write on my board. Do not make me go in and restrict what you guys can do. I will end this session for everybody. Don't be that person. You want to be that person? Go find another class to screw around in. Don't be that person here. So, Leela, they will ask you questions to see how you think. Okay? Google and Amazon and Apple will sometimes ask you questions unrelated to the job. How many M&Ms do you think are in a bag of M&Ms? It's just to see, do you get flustered? Now, Chris just said 25. San said 25. Chris said 27. Do you have how'd you get to that number? Based on, I'd actually have to hold the bag. If you have a bag of M&Ms, I'll hold on to it for you. I'll let you know how many they are. Based on how much each one weighs, I can probably give you a guesstimate. And then I would make a joke because I like to make jokes. My second response would be, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you guys give me a bag of M&Ms, you might not get it back. And then I would laugh. Because if you can also get them to laugh, you might be able to soften up the discussion a little bit. Right? People like people with a personality, provided you're not rude or over the top. But Leela, it's okay to say you don't know also if you're confused. But if they ask you a direct question, Leela, give me your strengths. Tell me what you bring to our company. So Leela, I noticed that you only spent 6 months. You only spent 6 months at your last job. Why did you leave that job? You can't say I don't know. Those are questions about you specifically. You better be able to answer that. That's a must. That is a super duper must. Okay? If it's personal, it depends on the question. It is illegal to ask if you're married. It is illegal to ask if you have children. Okay, so certain personal questions are illegal. You can say I'm uncomfortable answering if they do ask you a question that is over personal. I would not tell them it's illegal. I don't think that would be considered professional unless you know human resources law. Do you know human resources law? Because it may be legal what they're asking you. So unless you know human resources law, you can't say you're asking me something illegal right now. You better know for fact it's illegal. Okay, so if you leave a job, so human resources has a great way of phrasing things. They phrase things to avoid getting in trouble, right? So they might phrase things as, would you have trouble staying late 3 times a week? And they would ask you that question to find out if you are married or have children. So they wouldn't ask you if you are married or have children. They would ask you if you can stay late 3 times a week if it's an issue. And then they know the interviewer. So they know that the interviewer would ask you a question in a way that the interviewee will voluntarily offer you that experience. So they'll voluntarily say whether they're married or have children by saying they can or can't stay late. Okay, so Frank has a question. If they ask you if you want to work here long term, do you answer honestly? Well, Frank, that's an interesting question. There's a very, very gray area. You can answer questions and still kind of feel like you're telling the truth, I guess, then. If you were to get a job, let's say, with Google, and you really want to work for Amazon, and they say, do you plan on being here long term? Yes, of course. I love Google. Your mission, what you're offering, the job description, I think is great. But define long term, because you also know that you would be there long term unless Amazon came knocking at your door. So there are kind of things that you have to phrase in a certain way, because you also can't say, oh no, I plan on staying here for 3 months, then I'm going to leave. Oh, well, actually in 6 months, I'm moving to California, so I just want to be here for the next 6 months. That's definitely not going to work. So you do have to be cautious about what you share or overshare. That's why you have to do interview prep. So we talk about analyzing the job, right? We talk a little bit about researching the company. We talk to you about your appropriate clothing. You also have to do some Q&A prep work. Are you prepared to answer those questions? So Aiden asked a question. Do you tell them that if you get an offer from Amazon, you're going to leave? Nah, I would not tell them that. They know that every employee may leave at some point. Everyone knows that. They will also try to keep you there. So if you come out immediately and tell them, I'm going to leave once I get a better offer, they would probably take that as a disrespect, and then you wouldn't get the job. If you're going for the interview, they know that you want that position. So I would leave out certain specific information like that. Okay. So Shangwen said, tell me about your weaknesses. How do I answer? I know answering a weakness question makes you sound narcissistic. How do you approach it? So personally, you have to give a real weakness. Don't try to just beautify and say something that, oh, I don't have weaknesses. That's not true. So one of my weaknesses is that, so personally, if I was in the interview, what is one of my weaknesses? I have OCD, right? I'm obsessive compulsive about everything. Well, what does that mean? So that means that sometimes certain tasks will take me longer to get done than normal. So that's my weakness. However, I've been working on creating a schedule and a calendar and doing all of this in order to make my weakness not impact my job. All right, so Aiden said, what if you aren't aware of your weakness? If you're not aware of your weakness, you're probably not going to be able to share it in the interview. Because if you're not aware of it, how are you going to comment on it? But you should have an automatic answer for strengths and weaknesses. Automatic. You should be able to have that scripted. What's your strengths? What's your weaknesses? All right. What do you bring to our business? Those are things that are non-negotiable. You have to be prepared for those. And Tao Yu said, should you mention what you're doing to improve? Heck yeah. You never want to give a weakness without saying that you understand it's a weakness and you're working on improving it. Now, what if your weakness is not related to the job? Arthur, what do you mean? Like you have like you're late all the time, or you curse a lot? You have like a drinking problem, a drug problem, smoking, right? You take a lot of breaks for the bathroom. Like, I'm not sure what is a weakness that is not, what is maybe IG? What's IG? You like going on Instagram? Oh, I guess, sorry. You guys are gonna have to use normal people language with me, sorry. So what if so cursing. So if you curse a lot, you should fix that before you go on an interview. Yeah, you should do that. Yeah, if your weakness is cursing, I'm not going to hire you. Because I cannot afford for you to offend someone in my workplace, if that makes sense. Okay, so you do have to be very cautious. One, in who you are. So you guys have to know who you are. Like, I know you guys are high school students and it's great to be a kid and blah, 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 blah. But if we are going to have an honest conversation about resumes last hour, and we're going to have an honest conversation about job interviews this hour, you guys need to be honest with yourselves. Are you ready for a job? If you are going to dap up your hiring manager or the manager, you're probably not ready for an adult job. All right. If you're going to curse and because you're not able to not curse for some reason, maybe you're not ready for a job yet. You have to work on that. Now, it's not hard. I mean, it's not hard to shake someone's hand or to hesitate before you say something. So it's very easy for you guys to be well prepared for your job interviews and for your professional careers. But what I'm trying to communicate is that if today you know cursing is an issue for you, you've got to be extremely cautious. And you have to start trying to reduce that now. Tell me more about yourself. Roseanne asked a question. Tell me more about yourself. Well, what are your successes? Right? Talk about your successes. So I'm a competitive person, right? I might talk about certain things I do competitively, or successes I've had in my job, or what I do to better myself. I like to read. I write poetry. If you have no successes, one, that sounds really grim. I'm pretty sure you have some form of success somewhere. So if you guys are young, maybe it's limited. Well, maybe one of the things you're working on is public speaking. So maybe it's not a success, but it's something you have great interest in. Well, you can share that. Why not? It doesn't have to be like, hey, I buy stocks on the side and I made $100 million. Or like I invent things on the side. So how do you talk about yourself without seeming arrogant? Okay, so can they ask, hold on, Isabella, can they ask about disabilities? That I'm not sure, right? I'm actually not a human resources manager. I couldn't ask or answer that. My first inclination is they cannot ask you about your disabilities. Okay? But again, I'm not going to go as far as to discuss what they legally can or can't do. William, please be very careful saying who can and can't do things if you don't know human resources law. Again, if you guys go into an interview and you tell them, you can't ask me that, you are now being combative. You guys have to be careful. Is it bad to stutter? I stutter sometimes. Can you communicate with your stutter? I think so. All right, so let's move on to salary expectations. Some of you guys said, well, is it unprofessional to talk about salary? You need to know what their financial package is. That is the way you would phrase it. Financial package, financial offer. Okay, are they offering health insurance? Yes. Is salary negotiable? These are great ways to phrase it. You shouldn't say, what are you going to pay me hourly? What are you going to pay me hourly? It sounds like you guys are having a conversation on, the second floor outside of the library when you say it like that. Whereas you could phrase it slightly differently, and you can say, well, what is the financial package that you guys are offering? Is there health insurance? Is there an annual bonus? Is there an annual review? Or, I am weighing all of my options, and I was hoping that we could discuss a little bit more about salary or hourly wages. Right? So those are definitely things that you can phrase it in a much stronger way than you normally might, if that makes sense. So yes, Lucia, you can ask about promotions, right? Okay, so salary expectations. You should have a personal range, right? You guys can see what I'm saying, right? What I'm typing down. You should have a range of what you expect your salary to be. So you should go in there ready to have a discussion. You should go in there prepared to have a discussion and know what you're expecting. Do not be afraid to discuss salary. That is the quickest way to get less money than you're worth. Lucia, I got a question for you. If they say you cannot bring your pet to work, is that going to completely change whether or not you take the job? Then don't ask the question. By asking them, do you have a policy that I can bring my pet to work? You are already becoming the employee that, how do I phrase it? You're already becoming the employee that wants to kind of push, maybe needy, but maybe like you want to push the guidelines. You want to see how much you can do there. So that can be difficult to ask certain questions. I would leave specifically all of your questions that are needing to be done, that are needing to be covered. Bringing your dog to work, bringing a sick child to work, those questions are things that are not going to change whether or not you accept the position. So if it's not going to change whether you accept it, I would not ask it. Okay. I mean, Aiden says, if you're the only one taking care of the pet, can you leave it at home? Guys, I'm giving you my perspective. I wouldn't talk about my pets. If you're afraid that you can't leave your pet at home, then I don't know what to tell you. You can ask, but it could be very difficult. I doubt Dr. Marmer is going to let me bring my dog to work. So, again, we're getting way off topic. I think those are really kind of outlandish questions in terms of bringing pets to work. Let's go back to salary. How many of you struggle to discuss salary when you've been on a job interview or discussed what you'll be paid? Do any of you guys have issues discussing? Or if somebody offered you $15 an hour, would you say, yes, thank you? Okay, depends on the job. Yeah, so Gavin, I agree with you, Gavin. That is super awkward. That is super duper awkward, okay, to discuss what you should be paid for a job. Yeah, so Frank said if it's your first job, you wouldn't complain. However, Frank, depending on what you're doing, maybe instead of getting $10 an hour, you can get $10.50. Maybe instead of getting $9 an hour, you can get $9.25. Now, that always helps. So, again, I think that for you guys, you have to just be prepared to discuss it and go in there with an idea of what you want. Okay? So, a checklist and research about the company. So, I want to talk about your checklist should be about what questions do you have asked. So, I would write all of my questions down before walking in. I would write all of my questions down before even showing up for the interview. Because for an interview, I would specifically have things I need to ask. If they say, do you have any questions for me? I wouldn't want to sit there and say, it shows you're unprepared, right? It does show a little bit of unpreparedness. So I have a funny clip, and just to break up the monotony of a serious discussion, I do want to show you guys this. If I don't know where it went. Where did it go? So this is a clever clip. It's one of my favorite clips I've seen in a movie. I'll play it for you guys. I'm not sure how long it is. 30 seconds.
What would you say if a guy walked in for an interview without a shirt on? And I hired him. What would you say?
He must have had on some really nice pants.
So that's from the movie. Were you guys able to hear that? Okay, so that's from the movie Pursuit of Happiness. Fantastic movie if you guys want to watch it. But that was his interview. He walked into the office like that. Great movie, but such a clever rebound to the question. All right. So a lot of this is also being able to think on the fly. You know, when they ask you a question, can you turn it around? Can you make somebody laugh? Can you give an authentic answer and sound authentic and not sound scripted or made up? We've only got like a minute left, guys. I apologize. We could probably have this discussion all day long. The 11:30 group is coming in to discuss finances and the economy. Are there any like job interview questions sticking out? Newman, Aaron, I know you guys are seniors. Frank, I know we've got a handful of seniors in here that I don't know. As you guys are preparing for your college interviews, and as you guys are calling admission agencies, admission departments, you can appeal your college scholarship. You can appeal their financial offer. You need to appeal their financial offer. You need to call them and email them with your resume, with an additional letter that says things that you'll bring to the university. You need to. More times than not, they will offer you more money. Whether you go there is a different decision. You can and should. Most people don't know that. They don't do that. Or they don't know how to do that. If you're a senior and you got your financial offer from a school, if you have not already appealed, you need to appeal this week. It's already the end of April. What have you been doing? Go appeal. So if you're a senior, you were sent a financial package from the school. You need to call their bursar, which is usually their billing office, or their financial aid office, and you need to email them. So you're calling and you're emailing. You're going to send them an updated resume. You're going to send them an email that goes into depth that you want to appeal their original offer because you feel like you have a lot more you can bring to the school and you'd love to share that with them. Because your initial offer is strictly based on grades. Strictly based on grades. Your SATs, your GPA. They don't care about anything else. They don't care about who you are as a person, right? They don't care about what you've accomplished. They care about your college letter, your SATs, your ACTs if you took those, and then they care about your GPA and your ranking. They don't care about you as an individual. If you've got individual accomplishments, you need to make those clear when you appeal. So please, you can appeal. Austin, how long is an interview? So Austin's got a final interview question. And I know we got some people in this meeting that aren't here to talk about interviews, so I apologize. How long is an interview? How long does it last? I've had interviews in my life that are an hour and a half. I've had interviews that are 10 minutes. I've had interviews that were 3 hours long, and they parade people in. Okay? So there's no timetable. Usually you're looking at 60 minutes on average for an interview. Give yourself 60 minutes. So like if you have an interview at 12, don't make a date with someone at 1 o'clock, right? Give yourself a good hour at that one location. Sammy Pang asked a question. The college I'm applying to says you can only appeal under specific circumstances. Should I still attempt to appeal? Sammy, what are you going to do for the next month when we're out of school? Nothing, right? You're going to be home. So you have absolutely nothing to lose by appealing. The worst they can say is, oh, you can't appeal. Sorry. So what? You wasted a couple hours of your time writing an appeal letter and updating your resume. What if they said, wow, I love your letter, and normally we don't do this, but, and then they give you a better financial offer. Will you risk losing your spot at the college? No. No, you're not telling them you don't want to go there. What you're saying is, I want to appeal my scholarship offer. All right. Guys, I have to switch over. I have to switch over to the next topic. So this discussion we're having has to be put on hold. I do apologize. It is now 11:35. So from 11:35 to 12:15, you guys have access to me to discuss financial investing, retirement accounts, things about the stock market, how you do certain things. So I'm an open book. You guys have full access to me. If you guys want to go, you can go. Again, if you're interested in joining Virtual Enterprise, I do have the link right here. I do need those applications tonight. If you're a junior going into your senior year, if you are leaving, have a wonderful day. If you are leaving and you still have questions, I invite you to do some research online. There's nothing I'm not telling you that Google at some point can't provide you with in terms of resources. The fact that you guys are having questions about resumes and interviews when you're home from school, you guys have the best thing in the world right now. You have time. Write your resume. Rewrite the hell out of your resume. You have time. Do it. Jason, I don't know where to post these videos, to be honest with you, brother. I'll have the videos. I'm going to put them on YouTube. Then I'm going to send them to Dr. Marmer, and I don't know what happens with them afterwards. I assume they'll send them out. I don't know all of you individually. I apologize for that. I'm lucky I know the students that take my current classes' names. So I will share them to my current seniors. Maybe they'll post them online for you guys to access somehow. But I will also share them to Dr. Marmer. And the same way he contacted you all, I assume he'll be able to contact you with these links. If you're a junior, yeah, start writing your resume. Why not? You got nothing else to do. You have nothing else to do. Even if it's bad, write it. Then look at better resumes and look at yours and say, this is the one thing I can tell you. Always ask yourself, what is wrong with what I did? Don't write your resume and be like, yo, this is great. I wrote my first resume. You should write your resume, then print it out and go, what the hell is wrong with this thing? What is wrong with this thing? Find mistakes. Don't surround yourself with people that are going to say, hey, great resume, great job, great stock choice, right? What's a better choice you can make? What's a better edit you can make? Okay? And again, guys, we can go through this forever, but I got to move on. I apologize. Okay? I will get those links out to Dr. Marmer. Dr. Marmer will share them out on the last session resume, on the previous session just now on job interviews. And now we're going to move on and talk about finances, investing, and the economy. You're more than welcome to stay. We have 228 people in here. I will not be unmuting you. I'm actually going to, oh man, Okay, so guys, I have to end this meeting and then restart a new meeting. Okay, so I have to end this meeting so this meeting gets cut in half, right? I have to end this. That way we finish the job interview video so I can share that. So I'm going to end this meeting, kick everybody out, and then you can all come back in like 2 minutes once I restart the meeting for this. All right? I'll see you guys in a few minutes.